ChainLink is displaying a beautiful chart pattern. It's really likely it's going to go beyond $42 this year, which will end up being over a 300% increase in price. Today, we're going to break down the technical reasons of what you should anticipate before that happens. My name is Jagir. I was featured in the best-selling book, High Probability Trading Strategies, back in 2008, and I'm going to get you to leverage my 18 years of trading experience to really plan your buying and selling decisions on ChainLink so you can maximize your profits. Today, we're going to break down the theory and the actual price action of the chart. Now, I use something called Elliott wave theory, and it typically says buying and selling psychology typically moves in fives and threes, and that's what we have on the left-hand side over here. We can see this nice five-wave pattern, and we want to see, is ChainLink doing something like this? And then typically it's followed by an ABC correction. So first, let's just update the ChainLink chart on the right-hand side to really get a macro viewpoint. What we can see is we had this nice bullish move to the upside, a nice correction, a wave one, wave two. We had this textbook wave three, a nice ABC of a wave four, and what looks like to be the completion of a wave five. That's really, really important so we can see ChainLink seems to have completed a five-wave structure. Now we should anticipate a correction. But how deep is a typical correction? This is where we use something called Fibonacci price ratios. Most corrections come down to a minimum of 50%. In other words, this price movement to the upside, we should anticipate a 50% correction to the downside. So let's now put that onto the live chart so you can get a ballpark of the correction that's due for ChainLink. Now, this is what you want to anticipate before the next run up to the upside. So we can see here that ChainLink is more than likely, highly probable, is going to come down to at least $13.67, if not deeper. Next question that you want to ask is, how long does that typically take? And we can measure typical buying and selling behavior. So what we're going to use is something called Fibonacci time ratios. We're going to measure the beginning of wave one to the end of wave five. And there's two key ratios you want to be aware of, 38% and 62%, if I just drag it in like so. And what this gives us is a price and time zone, which is really reliable. But the most important part of this is that the minimum price and the minimum time a correction typically takes. So now let's apply that to the live chart on the right-hand side. We're doing this all on TradingView. So it's the beginning to the end of the five-wave structure. And now we can draw a price and time zone. So now this gives us a big clue on what is very likely going to occur over the coming months. We should anticipate at least some type of wave a wave B, and a wave C. This is the most common buying and selling behavior. So if you're compelled to buy a lot of ChainLink right now, it might not be the best time because right now it looks like we are at the end of a five-wave structure. We've had this big sell-off over here, and it looks like it is potentially the beginning of a correction that may last a number of months. So let's just now look at the price. So again, $13.60 thereabouts, and the date is the correction should take a minimum until the 21st of June. Now it might be shorter, it might be longer, but it just gives us a ballpark that any move to the downside, we don't want to jump and kind of jumpstart and buy too soon. We want to wait for a full correction to complete. So the next thing that we're going to do is the price projections. If, and it is an if, but it's highly probable, 70 to 90% of the time it will play out like this. If the price does come into this range in May and June, thereabouts, we can start to think about where is the next price target likely to be for ChainLink, and we can project it with high probability. Now, before I do that, I want to invite you to something very, very special. It's my free $1 Million Trading System Masterclass. This is something that I've been working on for the last 2 years, and I want to kind of say, hey, come in on the inside, because what I cover is pattern, which is Elliott wave theory, price, how we can relate price to pattern, time analysis, which we did the basics of today, which gives a real ballpark of what the market is likely to do. And then last but not least, momentum. We're not going to cover momentum today, but this really measures the acceleration and deceleration of the markets and can help us pull the trigger to buy and sell the market. If you like the sound of that, in the description link below, you can get instant access. I've spent a lot of time on this, probably over 100 hours. So do take advantage of this. Take a lot of notes because it will help your trading. With that said, let's jump back into the live chart and let's now do the price projections. Now, the key thing I want to really emphasize is when we're looking at Elliott wave theory, we typically have at least 2 or 3 degrees of wave count. Now, technically, there's actually 9 degrees, but for practical purposes, we only need 2 or 3. So when I'm looking at ChainLink, what I want you to be aware of is actually the 5-wave structure that we just drew out is actually a 5-wave structure, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of a wave 1. That's really, really important. So this whole 5-wave structure is actually of this wave 1. And what we're anticipating as a big correction is actually this correction over here. So that means if this occurs like so, and it's really likely going to, we should then anticipate this next leg up, which is a bullish wave 3, which is what we're talking about when it comes to looking at is the price going to go towards that $42 mark. So what I'm going to do for that case is I'm going to shrink this chart and I'm going to bring it down to the far right hand corner. We can get rid of this and this. We're going to need to make some guesses right now. Again, we'll do it more accurately if the price unfolds in this structure. But what we're going to assume is that ChainLink does come into this range over here. And let's just say it comes into this range. What we're going to do is we're going to call this a wave 1. I'm going to draw it in just a second. We're going to call this a wave 2 if it unfolds like this. And then we can project in advance the time and price zone for a typical wave 3. So let's do that now. So first, let's just label this chart. We're going to pull this up here. And let's label this chart a wave 1. And let's just make it nice and big. And we'll do it in red today. We'll make it as 28 in terms of size of text. And then down here, let's just put a wave 2. Now, I like to use a question mark to say, look, this wave 2 has not been confirmed yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to project in advance the high probability time and price zone. And again, it will be more accurate if and when ChainLink does get into this point here. So we are forecasting and we're just seeing what is likely the potential. The key ratio you want to be aware of is we want to measure how big was this wave 1, use the ratio 1.618 and project it from the end of wave 2. Now, we don't know where that is right now, but let's just guess it's around here, thereabouts. And then we can then look at if ChainLink does unfold like this, we should anticipate the next leg up to reach around the $42 mark, thereabouts, which is a pretty reasonable move to the upside, especially if it comes back down to around $13. That's over a 300% gain with ChainLink. That's the minimum expectation. How long should that take? Well, again, we can get a nice big clue on this by measuring how long did this wave 1 take, this 5-wave structure, project it from the end of this. Now, we don't know where the end is because it hasn't happened yet, but we're just getting a good ballpark. And then use the ratio of 100%. Now, we can see that's just slightly off the chart, so let's just bring it in like so. And then there's another key ratio that I'm going to show you, a bit more advanced. We call it a low to high. This is the typical maximum time it takes for a wave 3 to complete. What that means is we're going to take the low of this wave 1, the low of this wave 2, which again has not been confirmed yet, and we're going to project that to project the next high. That's a typical maximum time for a wave 3. So now we get a big ballpark, or a good ballpark price and time zone. It's a low to high, and we can see that over here, and we can draw the minimum expectations. So the detailed overview of ChainLink is, right now, anticipate sideways to down between now and the end of June, thereabouts, and a typical is an ABC correction, as we discussed. That's the theory. And we're talking about typical buying and selling behavior, the psychology of market dynamics. If and when this occurs, we want to be able to identify the end of this correction and then really load up for this potential wave 3. And a wave 3 typically reaches 1.618. Last thing I want to leave you with is the extended wave 3, which is, I think, is more than likely with the type of market that we're seeing and how the price of Bitcoin has really taken off recently, is 2.618. So 2.618 is a overextended wave 3. So now we've got a nice ballpark for ChainLink, which we're talking about $42 as a minimum expectation. And then the overextended for the next leg is $58. So now you can utilize this information to make your buying and selling decisions. Now, where most people get caught out is that most retail buy at the top of a wave 5 before a correction. And then they end up selling at the end of a correction, just how the market typically feels. You want to aim to do the reverse. You want to be looking to take profits at the end of a wave 5 and be patient for the beginning of a wave 3, which is in essence the end of a wave 2, so you can ride the trend. Now, if you found today valuable, Like, subscribe, hit the bell notification on this channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more content to get a real view of different crypto pairs. And if there's a pair that you want me to look at, especially in the top 100 market cap coins, let me know. I'll do a TA. And we really want to look at the price position, the pattern position, and the time position. And then we'll use momentum, something called double time frame momentum, to pull the trigger. And I cover that in more detail in my masterclass. Until then, I'll see you on the other side.